Morning, folks. We're gonna just do a quick session this morning talking about collections and archival collections and how we might use those in collective access. There's gonna be some modifications to the current screens now, so I'm not gonna get too in depth. And it's not gonna be anything super, any super changes to this. So nothing to worry about if you're already working in here. I'm gonna go over to the sandbox and share my screen with folks. For the most part, I'm just gonna pretty much look at the sandbox today, although the sandbox has just has a handful of collections in it. One of the things that I just want to make sure to mention is when we're saying collections, I know a lot of the time everybody thinks of collections as all of the collections, everything in your building, which that's accurate. But most of the time, if you're talking to archivists and you're talking collections, they're meaning more of the smaller part of that, like individual collections within your whole entire possessions of your museum. So they'll talk about, the Smith collection or the Barnaby collection or something like that. So that's when we've got this one little collections part over there is what we're focusing on. It can be used to group objects together. However, it's not necessarily built just for that. It's more so built for archival collections and paper manuscript collections, structured to be able to export an EAD finding aid. And what that is something that is basically just computer language, library language. So when you export a record, it's going to be something you'll be able to import up into Connecticut Archives Online. Let me go to that screen really quick. We work with them a lot, and the plan is to be able to get folks to get their own collections put in, at least in a very basic finding aid level. So you end up with a finding aid for your collections, which are basically just a series of pages, documents to go in to find out what's in that collection. So you don't have to go and dig through your 5 boxes of stuff to see what's there. You can go through and make an inventory and go through and say, oh, okay, the papers that are talking about the burying of the Park River in Hartford in this area, this is in box 2, folder 3. So you don't have to go through the whole entire collection trying to find things. You can go to the finding aid, find your topic, and then go. It just is a thing to help you find stuff. It's exactly what it sounds like. What Connecticut Archives Online is basically a finding aid for finding aids. There's a bunch of participating repositories that you can go in and take a look and see who's got some of their information in. This way, rather than having to go to each individual repository that you think might have information on something you're trying to research, you can just go here, type in your topic, and it'll find if somebody's got that information. We will be able to do that with collective access and Connecticut collections as well. But that'll obviously just be our members, so you'll be able to go in and search, because this is going to end up on the public portal through the NHPRC grant that we've gotten that is helping us to give the portal a facelift, also run the Archives 101 series, and do a lot of the tutorials, and you will be getting the opportunity to apply to get a traveling archivist to come to your institution to help you go through a couple collections, get you situated with learning how to sort through the collections and transform those into a finding aid, basically. So keep an eye out for the application announcement for the Traveling Archivist program. For any folks that have not done the Archives 101 program, you do need to complete that prior to be eligible to get a traveling archivist to come to your institution. So just looking at some of the groups here. So a lot of these are folks that are not part of Connecticut Collections. So it's kind of us joining the bigger group of this, but we will have our own groups of things here too. Let me just go into somebody. So the way they'll look here is you'll go in, see what their collections are, and you can go in and see their finding, which is a basic same format throughout everything. It'll include a lot of the same information, which is how our system is set up to be able to do that in a lot of the same fields that'll map into one of these. So your overview is your summary, your name, how much of this exists, physical location, the scope of what is included in the collection. And this is a really big, I know that this is a really big collection, so this is really, really wordy. So nobody be intimidated by how long that is. And it'll tell you different topics and different things that are on there. Scroll back up to the top a little bit. It'll also, finding aids will give you the contents of how things are broken down. So this contains correspondence, financial documents, legal documents, things like that. And it'll tell you how to access this, like where the items are. So all of this information, we won't have to worry about doing anything separate to get this filled out for Connecticut collections groups. We're going to be able to do this through collective access. And we'll have our records exported to Connecticut Archives Online. So when you get into your records on collective access, you'll see kind of that same thing as the identity elements start off. You'll see the hierarchy at the top, which is very similar to like the location hierarchy where we use. So you can just kind of go down through the levels to see what's in here. Your collection identifier, what you've got your item named as, the repository. Always just go ahead and fill that in no matter what, even if you're just starting with a basic record, because there are required fields for the data to export to an EAD record to go to the Connecticut Archives Online or any place that accepts EAD records. You have to have certain things filled out. And part of it, you can say the repository like, well, yeah, this is my museum, and the location, fill that out too. Like fill out your town, the state, because as you're thinking of it, you're like, yeah, obviously the Fairfield Historical Society is in Fairfield. You're like, why do I need to follow this extra information? Because this is all information that's going all up to the web, so people will be able to view it from wherever. And if they just see like Fairfield, they're like, I don't know where this is. How do I get to this stuff? Going through some of this, we're really going to encourage people to go in and do a couple overviews of a couple collections to get just some basic records in for themselves. So even if you don't have time to go through and deal with the 50 boxes of something, you can at least start a overview of the collection to say what it is. We started before we went on air. Mike was talking about a collection that they just recently took in, and just his brief description to us of what it was perfect for something that you can put into this record to start out as you're going through and sorting through all the details. So your title, we're probably going to mark somehow or give you a way to know what the required fields are for EAD. That'll be forthcoming. Some of them are kind of obvious, like you're always going to want the collection identifier, you're going to want the repository, you're going to want the title of what the collection is. So as you go down further, you'll see just kind of simple, straightforward date of what's in the collection. A lot of this is in the manual, and a lot of what I'm talking about is in the Archives 101 class series. Creators, so down here in the administrative biographical history element, this is where you're going to want to put your overview of the group of materials they're using and going through and cataloging. It can be as simple as this and just have a really quick note here, or it can be something like we saw in the other pages that are really, really long and have a whole like history of who the person was that the papers are related to and things like that. And this module works the same as the other modules in the system. All your pages are on the left-hand side to go in and get into different topics. And a lot of them are kind of just what they're talking about, the scope and content in the system of arrangement. Scope is kind of how did this get here? What does it contain as far as the stuff? And then we talk about how it was organized. So most of these are, the fields are split out and addressed in the manual. So highly recommend to take a look through the manual so you can really get into the nitty-gritty details of it. As I've told people a million times, I'm not an archivist, so I am not the person to give you exactly what needs to be in each field. However, I did have an archivist help me with the manual and made her go through and tell me a lot of the individual things and what needs to be in there. So you can rely on the manual more so than like ask me. We will have a list of, once you go through the Archives 101 class, there's contacts and resources in there as well for the, to get in touch with the archivist or to go and look up different things and how to do this yourself too. And we're not expecting everybody to get to the level of, you know, a professional archivist who does this all day, every day. We just want to be able to help you guys sort your material, make it findable for researchers and for other people, so people can use it. Going down, and just you guys can click through yourselves and see all the fields that are there and the subjects and all that. As usual, there's the log at the bottom, so you can see any changes that are made, anything that's updated as you've gone. And right above that, the summary. Most of the systems all have a canned like report for collection finding aid. So this basically structures everything the way that a standard finding aid is structured. So you can, once you finish the record, at least as much as you want to, you can go in and click summary, you're on your collection finding aid, and you can print this out and you'll have it for if you need a hard copy to like show folks if they're coming to look, or if you need to be able to put it up on your website somehow. But this will go through and it basically tells you, breaks it down into series and subseries and what's where, and just gives the basic information. There is, okay, since we're in the sandbox, there's the basic collection list. That I think is in the, yeah, and that's just kind of broken down into what the contents of things are. And then there was one that somebody else had done as well, but that collections finding aid is in there. Like a canned report and all of those. And as with anything with the displays, you can go through and edit what you need to and create other displays for other information you have. You know, I have one that just lists like the, I think like the number and the title name or something like that, just for my use. If you're looking for things in particular. As you're going through, like I said, the hierarchy works very similar to the location hierarchy. So this is your highest level, this is your collection level, and it'll say what level it is at the end in the last word. So when you're adding something to this, we've got series 1 through 4. If I wanted to add another level here, we don't want to add another collection, we're adding another series. Under the Burr School Records, click on the plus. And we're gonna skip the identifier for the moment. We're just gonna call it, this might have been in there before, but just what this like grouping material is, like that we're talking about a series that talks about construction of the school. And once you save that, you'll have your fields up on the left, your pages up on the left show up. And it'll say at the bottom of this that this is a series, so you can see all the series in there. And the same thing if you're adding another level. The interesting part and the good part about this system that I love is you can add objects. So if you have, say, the blueprints from the construction of the school, you can click on that and you can add an object. And it gives you the same classifications that are in objects because it's basically connecting this to the objects module. So you have your choice of audiobook, document, moving image, physical object, still image. I'm gonna say like document for now and hit plus. No, I don't want to save those changes. It's okay, because we didn't save the changes from before. and it comes over and pops you into the object module. So you can go through and just put in whatever you want. More so, this is useful if you're doing a lot of scanning and want to attach images to some of these, or if you want to just track where the things are as an object, that's fine, like the individual construction plans. More so, this gets used if you're digitizing things. You do not have to go through and digitize every single piece of paper in a collection. If it's, you know, the super most important collection in the world, sure, maybe. The main focus is really to kind of get control over your collections first. If you're there and you have 100% intellectual control over all your stuff, know where it all is, then maybe think about doing a digitization plan of what you actually want to do. Partially because it's very time consuming to get to digitize a lot of stuff. Both for the actual digitization and for the like individual cataloging to do to get these things in. So this pops you over to this part. If we added something in, we can add a media. I'll just do this for now. You can add the media, you can add the scanned image in if you want. And I also don't really necessarily recommend you have to fully catalog each individual bit of paper. That's kind of what the finding aid is there for. You just want people to be able to find it, and in this case, be able to see it so they can get to it. So in here, as we're in the objects portion, if we go to location, this is the physical location. Obviously, we didn't put it anywhere yet, but you'll see this bar at the top that says location hierarchy. This is usually closed and does not automatically expand for most folks. When you click that open, and you can click show hierarchy, that shows you where the item is in the archival collection series. So this is being noted that it's basically part of this school papers construction series. The one thing that was very important that I was learning during a lot of the Archives 101 was that series, folder, file, all of that was very different than, it's more of an intellectual construct than a physical construct. So just because this construction as built plans, we're putting it under this school papers construction series, doesn't mean that it is stored with those items wherever they're stored. It just means that that's part of that category of object. So those are probably going to be stored and put somewhere else. We're treating them slightly different, where we can track that like physical location in the object record too. But it does count as part of the school papers construction group, that if someone wanted to find out more about the construction, they would look at this and say, oh, there's also this other thing too that's treated a little bit differently because it's a different size and isn't going to necessarily be in the same physical location as these. I'm pretty sure I've just made all of this more complicated for folks for what they need to know. But just kind of wanted to do a quick spin through this to see what, just kind of overview of what everything was, and get you guys asking questions to yourselves so you can come up with more questions for us and for the archivists as we continue on the NHPRC program. We will have some more sessions available, I'm sure. We are going to be offering, we're hoping to be offering again the hands-on training, but I don't know when that's going to be. We're going to have to talk about that and see who's going to do it and when we might be able to offer it again. So keep an eye out for that. And I think that's about it. I don't really have much else on this at this point in time for folks. So as you guys come up with questions as you're going through and dealing with your manuscripts and your archival collections, just let us know, and we can either try to answer your question or point you, if it's beyond us, point you in the direction of some of the archivists and some of the references that they gave to us for the class. So happy cataloging, you guys. I'm going to stop recording. Maybe.